what would you guys say was like the game we talked about most last year? At least it felt like it. You know, we talked about it a ton. It was an endless stream of content, tons of just terrible choices. Yeah, Brandon, I think you're right. Suicide Squad by far. Concord was a flash in the pan. Like, it came out of nowhere, it blew up, and like a dying star, it shined bright, but then it was gone. But Suicide Squad, we covered pretty much from start to finish the entire year. We started covering it in January really heavily, and then all through the year, we talked about it. It's officially over. And because they only had 1 year, they didn't finish the entire story arc, because it was supposed to be like 13 seasons, I think. There were supposed to, or 12 seasons, 13 total Brainiacs, 1 in the base game, and then 1 for each like seasonal update. But they only got through 4 of those. And as a result, they didn't really have the opportunity to tie up the story or explain what happened, or what would go on to happen, because that was supposed to play out over the next couple of years. It was one of the stupidest things about Suicide Squad, is that they had this story that you would maybe find intriguing if you got in like a really severe car accident and maybe suffered brain damage or something. And as a result, like, they had all of these cliffhangers, they had all these potential twists that you could see from a mile away. You knew what they were going to try to do, and then it just didn't go anywhere.
Scott Hale is now a member.
Scott, thank you for being a member. Appreciate you. Well, here it is. Synth Potato collected the clip for us, so we don't have to. What a Chad. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League's live service story has concluded with a 2D cutscene that has Harley Quinn explain the ending, because they couldn't afford to actually do it. This is how they did all the cutscenes, but even this one, the art seems to be a bit lower quality. It seems like it's maybe a little more rushed. There's not as much detail in it. So let's see how Suicide Squad ended.
So we phased our butts into Brainy's lair, and he was steamed. But guess who else showed up?
Brainiac, that's enough. Kryptonian, you're indubitably too discombobulated to fight. Don't you know, Brainiac? Anything's possible with a little help from your friends.
Thought he meant us for a second, but of course he meant bats. Kapow! That says
The criminals.
that's us did well following his plan. So how'd we figure out Brainy had cloned the League?
So they did clone all of the Justice League. And so that's how they could justify killing off Batman, is because it was a different Batman. And he could kill off Superman because it was a different Superman. It's just about as stupid as you could expect. It's the equivalent of going, it was all a dream. You know, it's crazy.
We were like, there were clones? Anyway, we totally laid it out. If we took him back, Walla would make them into even bigger tools. More importantly, she'd totally 86 us. Soup said the League needs to atone for everything that happened, starting with freeing all the folks Brainy tentacle mapped, then putting as many worlds right as they can. As for us, we had a plan too. Did I mention the Wonder Trio up hack, Lawless and Toy Boy shorted out our bombs? That's important for the next part. At the end of the day, this squad sticks together. Why not do it out there in the Elseworlds instead of a freaking prison block? Road trip! Don't you love a happy ending? Even Waller gets to say she saved the world. And she will, if she knows what's good for her. Suicide Squad out!
That's the entire thing. Like, I can see what they were thinking, where they're like, hey, yeah, because you killed Batman. And then the big surprise is that he was cloned and Superman's actually still alive and Batman's still alive and everything's okay. But I'm sure this would have just been another reskin boss fight, and that's all it would have been. And then you go to like short out the bombs in your neck, and I just, like, you can tell that this was on the whiteboard in the office for what they were going to do. But it's just so insane that they thought that they could just kill off Batman, wait 3 years, and then explain away that actually he was cloned. Like, I feel like if you're going to do a plot twist like that takes 2 to 3 years to play out, you've got to, like, there's got to be some bigger hook or crazier reveal or something to just be like, Batman died. Nuh-uh. Like, that's just, it's not what it needed to be. There was no way this was ever going to be that satisfying. And now seeing it, you know, you'd hope that we'd look at this and be like, wow, I kind of wish they would have had the chance to show us and actually explore this. No, I'm like, thank God they didn't spend 2 years trying to do this. Like, Jesus Christ. Unbelievable. Like, it really is one of those games that makes you just look at it and wonder, like, was I crazy for liking, like, Arkham City? Was I crazy for liking Arkham Knight? How did those people make this? How did we end up here? I genuinely am baffled. But the reason reporting is that Rocksteady has experienced some new layoffs. There are people still working on the Hogwarts Legacy director's cut or whatever, and it's not, I don't remember if they said that they got approved for their own game or if they were just pitching it. Last I heard from Jason Schreier in his report in June, they were pitching it, preparing a pitch, but who knows. Toxic positivity work culture? No, apparently Wheel of Time, like what Jason Schreier described in his report, as I recall, was a culture of perfectionism and then a lack of clear direction was primarily the problem. There were a lot of choices made by like the game director and studio founders, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, where they were like, hey, we want to have this like open world and we're going to build these tank vehicle things that players can customize. And that's going to be really badass and cool. And so they spend a ton of time building these systems out in the game. And it's not easy. It's not cheap to do that. But they did it. And then they realized, hey, this doesn't make any damn sense, like at all.
Gene Starwind is now a member. Warner gotta be pissed about Marvel Rivals popping off.
Yeah, probably. They're probably calling NetEase, being like, hey, can you make one for us? But I'm sure there's limitations there. But like this, they built these cars, these tank things. And then they realized, hey, it doesn't make any damn sense if we have characters who can fly, who can leap, who can swing through the air. We focus on all these movement mechanics. Why would they drive tanks around? How does that make any sense? And so they backed off of it and they decided, let's still keep that in the game. We'll just use it for like a different mode, like a different mission type where you can use them. And then the car, like the tank will blow up and then you've got to hop out and fight normal or whatever. But this was all wasted time. They didn't need to do this, but they spent a ton of time working on it apparently. It's also pretty clear they probably had a loot box system at some point with the crates that come in at the end of missions that very clearly look like loot boxes. And those were almost certainly scrapped after the first reveal debacle, and they undid that as much as they could. There was also I believe in the original game trailer, they had, what was it? It was like a power score, item score or something like that. But there was something like that, like basically a total power value that could tell you how powerful your loadout was and everything. And all that got walked away from. And, it was just clear that this was a game that I don't know why they made it. I think they made it because they probably were thinking that it was going to be easy money and they were going to pop off and it was going to be, a retirement fund for the studio founders. And then they just started searching for a way to turn it into something fun, but it didn't start with a clear concept because the idea of having like King Shark with a machine gun doesn't make sense to begin with. Like, why wouldn't he bite people? Like, what are we doing? The concept never made any sense. Whereas that Dawnwalker trailer and you hear the pitch of the Dawnwalker game. Oh, that sounds cool. You like the pitch. With this, the pitch never made any sense. It's a 4-player co-op looter shooter with superhero characters. And we're going to have like 5 different enemies total for the entire game, and it's just gonna be the same missions over and over again. Like, no part of this made any sense at all at any point. But you know, we have those t-shirts on the merch store that say hype makes you stupid. The other thing that makes people stupid is live service money. The idea of live service money makes studio executives so freaking dumb, because they're willing to do anything and waste hundreds of millions of dollars because they think maybe, just maybe, we'll get a taste of that Fortnite style money and it'll all be worth it. And it makes them stupid, because this should have been shut down 5 years ago. Even when we saw these trailers initially, we were like, okay, it's a little different. But I remember seeing this trailer and we were like, there were the rumors that, and leaks and stuff saying this was going to be a 4-player co-op looter shooter. And we were like, really? That's what Rocksteady's been doing? And we were frustrated because that's not what we liked from them. But it's Rocksteady. I'm sure they'll pull it off. They're Rocksteady. They're really good at what they do. And then this thing where you see Superman killing some dude. It's crazy hardcore. But man, what a waste. This whole story, the story of Suicide Squad, is one of just bumbling incompetence of an idea that didn't make any damn sense at any point. Of a studio that was not equipped for this kind of game, of a publisher that was so hungry for live service money that they were willing to just go along with anything, even when it very clearly needed to be redone and reworked. It was an avoidable disaster. I mean, they didn't need to lose $200 million on this, but at some point, somebody should have been able to see that this wasn't going to work. And yet nobody did that. Nobody made that decision. Some people say that it's, you know, a culture of toxic positivity. Maybe that's a part of it. But more than toxic positivity, I'm not sure if that's what was at play here. I think this was that the live service money put blinders on and they just lost all sight of it. It's the same thing that happened with Concord, where with Concord, some of those character designs.
Tire 2 is now a member.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tier. With Concord, I think there was an element of toxic positivity because some of those character designs, the fact that nobody said anything for making a character that looks like they're walking around in a garbage can, like, come on. But with this specifically, I think it was just an example of nobody wanting to say, hey, I just don't think this concept will connect with players. I think we're going to waste money and time on it. Nobody would say that, because if it was successful, it was going to make $1 billion. Same thing with Concord. You know, hey, if it's successful, it's going to make $1 billion, and it'll all be worth it. It'll all be worth it then. You can't just summon up Fortnite. Yeah, you can't. And it takes years and years to build that up. It takes years and years to earn the trust of players and to earn the spending of players. And nothing drives people more insane than when you are transparently trying to milk them dry. It's why the new thing, I don't know if you guys saw this, Apex is apparently going to start selling mythic skins for grenades, like mythic skins for your grenades. At this point, are we going to start selling skins for shrapnel too? Like, are we just that out of ideas? It's like, well, what if we did skins for wall? We do skins for walls. Wouldn't surprise me if they'll start doing skins where you can buy like posters in the game and it decorates the buildings that you run through. Things like that. Bullet skins. Yeah, you can't technically see them, but they're there. We promise. You know, you're seeing it with the Apex community. They're getting really fed up.